The Public Affairs Department of WALA Fox 10 presents your Social Security Report.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. May I come in? Thank you. I wonder if you have been as intrigued as I've been, puzzled too, at all that you're hearing and reading about taking part of the Social Security taxes and placing them in private investments. How that would be so much better that you get so much more than you do from those government bonds. Well, I suppose that's true to a certain extent, but I know that it has several pitfalls, in my opinion. For one thing, now don't think that I'm against it, because I'm all for anything that would be in favor of Social Security itself and also for the welfare of the people who participate in Social Security. But I'm wondering who is going to pick out those investments? And if the investments go bad, any of them, are the taxpayers going to have to make up the difference? You remember with the savings and loans, how when they went bad, they're bad investments, all the taxpayers had to take part in taking care of all of those people who had their money in the savings and loans. Would that be the same thing with those who have had part in the private investments and some of them go bad? And are you going to have some special bureau that's going to pick out what you invest your money in for those private investments? And then also you're always thinking about or talking about all that much more money that you would have when you reach retirement if you had some of that in private investments. Well, it would be if you had the right investments and if the economy continues to be good, which it probably won't be all the time, and if the market continues to go up and stocks and bonds continue to rise in price, which they're not going to do, believe me. And then also, don't forget that retirement is only part of the story. Not everybody is going to live to reach retirement. So when you talk about how much more you would have from private investments when you reach retirement, so you think about all of those who are not going to reach retirement. I know that when I was with Social Security, we always found that about 60% of all benefits went in retirement cases. That is to the one who had been working and retired, and to the spouse and any children. And about 40% went to death and disability benefits, because so many will die in early age and early middle age, and they haven't had a chance to build up a lot that you would get in retirement with these private investments. So we'd have to look at both sides of the picture. So don't be intrigued by all of this talk about how much better people would be if they had a lot of that money in private investments. Part of it, yes, if it could be worked out properly. But I'm not for diving right into that right away. But looking into some of those questions that we can dive into right away, talking about the money part of Social Security, this good gentleman was pretty perturbed about this. He said, I'm always hearing talk about Social Security running out of money in about 5 years. Is that true? Well, not Social Security, no. But there is a possibility that the hospital part of the Social Security fund could be scraping bottom within the next 5 years. Now, I don't say that that's right on the horizon, no. I say within the next 4 or 5 years, that could be a stark reality, but even then, I'm not so sure. Because, you know, when you consider that everything that a person makes is subject to that 1.45% of hospital tax, it's building up a pretty good amount in that hospital trust fund. So there's a possibility, a very grave possibility, that the hospital part of Social Security, or the whole hospital part of Medicare, and of course Medicare is part of Social Security, but the hospital part of Medicare could be facing stark times within the next 4 or 5 years. So that's why they have to be so very careful in watching expenses. But I don't think that there's anything to be particularly worried about right now. And certainly the whole Social Security is not in any danger of running out. But the clock on the wall says, you've got to run out for a few minutes, so will you excuse me? And then I'll be right back.
If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office and are a resident of the Mobile area, please write to the Social Security Administration, Mobile District Office, 9 St. Emmanuel Street, Mobile, Alabama, 36606, or call 334-441-6165. If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office and are a resident of Jackson, Alabama, please write to the Social Security Administration, 150 College Avenue, Jackson, Alabama, 36545, or call 334-246-6018.
It's certainly good of you to allow me to run out and then come back in as I have to do on Sunday mornings, and I appreciate it very much. I wonder if you have ever been as puzzled as this gentleman was when he brought this up the other day. He said, I've heard this talk bandied back and forth about you're going to have to be older than 65 to be able to draw the Social Security benefits sometime in the very near future. Is that anywhere near us yet? Well, the answer is it's nearer than you think, because, you know, according to the present law, beginning with the year 2000, and all that used to be so far out in the future, now it's less than 2 years away. Beginning with the year 2000, you're going to have to be a little bit more than 65 to be able to draw the full benefits. You have to be 65 years and 2 months. And that keeps creeping up little by little until the year 2027, when it reaches the age of 67, when you have to be 67 to draw the full benefits. But you can always take the reduced benefits beginning at age 62. The only trouble is that the reduction is going to have to be figured from 65 years and 2 months, or 65 years and 4 months, and 6 months or 8 months, when they figure how much the reduction is going to be, because you know the reduction is just a little bit more than 1/2 of 1% for each month that you're under the full retirement age. But there is a lot of talk, as this gentleman was mentioning, about age 67, or maybe even as high as age 70, coming on at some time in the future. Now, I don't see age 70 any time in the foreseeable future. As a matter of fact, I don't think any of us old enough to be able to draw Social Security now, the full Social Security benefits, I don't think we'll be alive, or very few of us will be alive, when age 70 becomes the age at which you have to be before you draw the full retirement benefits. But that is possible. Because, you know, when 65 was the age to draw the full Social Security benefits, when that was written into the law back in 1935, it was copied from the German law, which was started in 1889. And at that time, if you made it to age 65, you were very, very fortunate indeed. And if you made it to age 65, you didn't have many more years to go. And it was the same over here. But little by little, that age has been expanding, so that now they're saying that about age 72 or 73 is the average age now. So as I see it, sometime in the future, we're going to see age 70 as the age when you draw the full retirement benefits. But that's not anywhere in the near future. As the law stands now, beginning in 2000, you're going to have to be a little bit over 65, then little by little it creeps up until the year 2027, when you have to be 67 to draw the full benefits. And this gentleman said, I'm confused about this. I always thought if you qualify for disability benefits from Social Security, they kept on as long as you were totally disabled. But I'm beginning to wonder, is there a limit on how long they're going to pay those disability benefits? I said, I don't know why you would ask that question. What's bringing that up in your mind? He said, well, I have a friend who said, I have received a letter saying they want to take a second look at me about drawing my disability benefits. So I'm beginning to wonder, are they going to cut him out of the disability benefits? The answer is not likely. You see, Congress has told the Social Security Administration that every year they have a certain group of disabled benefits that they have to look at, and if it looks like that this person possibly is getting better and is no longer meeting the requirement of full disability, then they have to call them in and have a further re-examination. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to go to a doctor. It means that they do have to go into detail about what they're able to do now, if there's any difference in the medicine they happen to take, or in any of the activities that they can engage in. But Congress says that they do have to take a certain group of persons, say those with heart trouble, or those who have had a brain aneurysm, or something of that nature, just a certain type every year that they have to go into, and they have to re-examine and be sure that they are meeting the law's requirements. Because, you know, it is subject to fraud. If a person is just left alone after they was qualified for the disability benefits, they can get better and better and actually be practically well and still drawing disability benefits. And believe me, it isn't very often, though, that that's going to happen, because you'd be surprised how many self-reported watchdogs of the United States Treasury there are out there, and they'll be very glad to report the fact that you are drawing disability benefits and they don't think you're any more disabled than they are. And this gentleman had this question. He said, if I go back to work while I'm drawing my retirement benefits, I know I'm going to have to pay the Social Security taxes, just as I did when I was before I retired. But is that work going to do me any good since I'm already on record as having retired? Well, it could, and maybe it won't. You see, this is the way the law works. The law says there are a number of years. There is a certain number of years, get it straight grammatically, there is a certain number of years on which the benefit is based, depending on what your date of birth is. And they pick out the best of those years and use those earnings as the basis on which the benefit is figured. Now, when you retire, that is going to be the basis of your retirement benefit. If you go back to work, you're going to have earnings better than one of those years that was used in that first benefit. You're going to have a certain number of years, or any year, that will be better than one of those years, to add to that, to recompute it and raise it. Otherwise, if your earnings after retirement are not going to be any better than they were before your retirement, then you are not going to qualify for any raise. But the clock on the wall says you've got to go for a few moments, so will you excuse me? I'll be right back.
If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office and are a resident of the Eastern Shore, please write to the Social Security Administration, 368 Commercial Park Drive, Fairhope, Alabama, 36532, or call 334-928-2504. If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office and are a resident of Andalusia, Alabama, please write to the Social Security Administration, 408 South 3 Notch, Andalusia, Alabama, 36420, or call 334-222-9701.
Thank you again for letting me come back again. I was a little rushed when I was trying to make that last explanation about working after you've started drawing your retirement benefits, so let me run it by again. As I said, when you do retire, they base your benefit on those best years, the number depends on what your date of birth is. So after you retire, if you go back to work, you're going to have earnings in some year that are better than one of those years that was used in the original computation. But if when you go back to work after retirement, your earnings are going to be less, then you are paying the Social Security taxes as you have to. But it isn't going to do any good about raising the amount of the benefit. As far as paying the taxes is concerned, Social Security doesn't care whether you pay the taxes or not, but Internal Revenue would take a very dim view if you didn't pay the taxes or the employer didn't deduct them from your pay. So please remember, unless earnings in any year after retirement are better than one of the years it was used in the original computation, then those later earnings are not going to raise the benefit at all. But you're always going to get any cost of living adjustment, just as anybody else would who's drawing the Social Security benefits. And by the way, speaking of going back to work and drawing benefits, this good lady said, I know the rule that you've been quoting ever so often on Channel 10, that if I'm under the age of 65 and I go to work this year while I'm drawing benefits, and my earnings go over $9,120, that I'm going to have to start losing $1 of benefits for each $2 of earnings. I said, yes, you've got it right. But she said, I'm wondering, is there any kind of quick formula I could work out? Well, I gave her the formula that I used to use when I was for Social Security. I'd say, you take the total amount of earnings that you expect for the year, whether it's in the first of the year or the middle of the year, whatever the total amount of the earnings is, and divide it by 2. Because you see, you have to give a $1 of benefits for each $2 of earnings. So you take the total amount of earnings that you're expecting for the rest of the year or the full year, and then you deduct the earnings ceiling from that. And if there's anything left over, that's the amount that you could expect in benefits. For example, if your earnings for the year are going to be, let's say $30,000. Take half of that, that's $15,000. Take $9,000 or $9,120 from that, that leaves $6,000. Well, if you're going to have as much as $6,000 or more coming in benefits, then you can expect to be able to collect something. But if you wouldn't be able to get more than $6,000 in benefits because of your retirement or because of the death benefits that you're drawing, then you wouldn't be able to draw anything if you went up to the earnings ceiling or you were making that much money. And then this young lad said, now that I'm out of school, I'm going to be looking for some kind of summer work. Now, possibly I could get a job at the grocery store as a bag boy, or maybe I'll go around cutting lawns, cutting grass, that's all the lawns. And I'm wondering, do I come out to Social Security because this is only summer employment and I'm so young? Well, as far as the cutting the grass of the lawns is concerned, no, because he's under the age of 18, and if he were a regular employee of that home, he still wouldn't be under Social Security because he's under the age of 18. If he were 18 or over, then if he were paid as much as $1,100 by one household, then yes, he would be considered an employee. Now, that would be normal, I'd say, because that means if he were a regular employee of that household. Normally, though, one who goes around cutting grass is going to work here, then here, then here, then here, and they're not a regular employee of that household. But if he goes into a grocery store, for example, is going to be a bag boy, or any other kind of employment for a business, the fact that he's young, the fact that he's under 18, the fact that he is summer employment is not going to make any difference. He is going to have to be under Social Security. And this question came from a good gentleman who said, when I retired, or was about to retire a couple of years ago, I said, I don't think I want that doctor bill part. I know that I can have the hospital part without paying any premium, but I don't believe I want that doctor bill part because I don't like to have to pay that monthly premium, and I've never been sick in my life. But, you know, now that I have reached 65 and over, I find that it's a different tune that I have to whistle. My health is beginning to deteriorate. But have I just cut myself out completely for the doctor bill part? The answer is no, you never do. The only trouble is, since he didn't take it when he could at age 65, or within the next 3 months after age 65, then he is going to have to pay a penalty in the premium. And he is going to have to wait until the next open season to enroll. The open season, as you know, you've heard me say so many times here, is January, February, March of each new year. But he's not cut out completely. He can always come in during an open season and enroll. Of course, he's going to have to pay that penalty of 10% for each year he put off from the first time he would be able to qualify for the Medicare Part B, as they call it, the doctor bill part. And this gentleman said, I received a rude shock when I got my first disability benefit from Social Security. They tell me because I'm drawing Whiteman's compensation, they're making a deduction out of that disability. Is that true? Can they do that? The answer is yes, they can, because there is an offset in the disability benefit if you're drawing Whiteman's compensation, because the law says that there is a cap on what you can draw when you draw disability and Whiteman's compensation. But Social Security would be glad to explain it to you just exactly how much it could be. So get in touch with them. They'll be glad to explain it to you. Clock on the wall says we're explaining to you in very explicit language. You've got to go for a few moments. So will you excuse me? I'll be right back.
If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office and are a resident of the Pensacola area, please write to the Social Security Administration, Pensacola District Office, 1011 West Garden Street, Pensacola, Florida, 32501, or call 850-434-5488. If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office and are a resident of the Pascagoula, Mississippi area, please write to the Social Security Administration, 1225 Jackson Avenue, Pascagoula, Mississippi, 39567, or call 228-762-3370.
Thank you for letting me in for the last roundup. I know this good lady felt very disappointed when I had to give her the answer that I had to for this. She said, I know that ever so often I'll hear something or read something about Social Security is being more liberalized in this or that field. So I'm wondering about my situation. My husband is retiring next week. Now, I'm not yet 62. As a matter of fact, I'm 59 and a half, but I am disabled. But I haven't worked enough on my own record to be able to draw disability benefits. It's been years since I've worked, and I understand from what I've read and what I've heard you say on Channel 10 that you've got to have a certain amount of Social Security employment out of the last 10 years. I said, yes, that's right. You've been hearing correctly, that you have to have about half the time out of the last 10 years. If you're 31 years of age or older, if you're younger than 31, you have to have less than time than that. Well, she said I couldn't beat that at all. But isn't it any way that a total, well, not totally, but very, very disabled wife could be able to draw anything on the husband's record when he retires, even though she's not 62 yet? Answer is no, there isn't, unless they have children under the age of 16 in her care or a child totally disabled before the age of 22. Otherwise, there's no way that she's going to be able to draw benefits until she reaches the age of 62, even though she is very, very disabled. And this good gentleman wanted to know, when I die, does my widow get any help at all with the burial expenses, any help at all from Social Security? Well, you get that little lump sum death benefit of $255, and I so well remember when that became part of the law that it did a very good job of paying for a basic funeral. But now, of course, you know, $255 isn't going very far, and you don't have to use that for part of the funeral expenses. It is a total burial, not burial benefit, it is a total death benefit. And the law says it's a Social Security death benefit, and you can use it in any way that you wish, but there's no direct help with any burial expenses. But the clock on the wall though says, time to go, you've got to leave. Thank you very much for letting me visit with you till next week at the same time from the heart. God bless you all, every one of you. And goodbye.
This has been your Social Security Report, a public affairs presentation of WALA Fox 10. This program has been pre-recorded broadcast at this time. If you have questions or need assistance from the Social Security Office, please call 1-800-772-1213.